Hello? Hello? Is this thing on? Good. It is? You can hear me? Good. Oh, okay, great. Now where were we? Let's see. I know I have that song around here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Pagliacci by Rhett Miller. And play.
The guy goes in to see a doc, says there's something wrong with me. I got a sadness I can't shake now. Is there something I can take now? Doctor has a think, says he might know just the thing. There's a performer here in town, and he's the world's greatest clown. Laughter, as we all know, is the best medicine. Guy says, Doc, that's the problem. What if I was to tell you I'm Pagliacci?
It's the hilarious world of depression. I'm John Moe, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad to be back here on this show. I'm glad to be talking to you and calling a new thing that I'm making the hilarious world of depression. And I'm glad to be playing and listening to that Rhett Miller song. And I kind of can't believe it, and yet it is so. I am the former and current host of the hilarious world of depression. This show, once again, exists in the present tense. I should explain. About 10 years ago, I had this idea to talk to comedians about clinical depression in a podcast. I knew a lot of comedians who dealt with it, and I have dealt with it, and it seemed like a good idea to put some humor into a topic like that. Dark humor, absurd humor, inspiring humor. It all seemed to have a place. It also seemed like the worst idea I had ever had in my life, to take professionally funny people and then talk to them about something that's deadly serious and also just plain deadly. It's like doing a show with LeBron James where you could never talk about basketball. Actually, that sounds like kind of a cool show. I'm going to make a note of that idea. So the idea, I guess, really was that if we talked about these things openly and we made a few jokes, that it was not so scary of a topic when it tends to be a really scary topic. It's like when my kids were younger and they had to take an antibiotic for an ear infection. And, when they were really young, we couldn't explain medicine to them. We just put a little bit of strawberry ice cream in with the medicine, and it was fine. So the idea was to make some content, make a show that is that strawberry ice cream. So I told my boss about this idea, and he was intrigued, but I still wasn't sure it could work. He asked what I would call it, and off the top of my head, I said, the hilarious world of depression. I figured if it was a bad idea, then that would make it exposed that much sooner and torpedo the whole thing, and I could move on with my life. But he loved the title. Everyone seemed to love the idea of this show within American Public Media, the company where I worked. So we decided to make one season, handful of shows. It was so specific. Just comedians talking about just depression for a limited run series. Well, we launched, and it was a hit. Number 2 on the iTunes charts, or among podcasts where no one got murdered, number 1. And we got huge download numbers, which is great, but we also started hearing from listeners, people whose lives were changed by what we were making, what I was making with my producer, Chrissy Pease, and our senior producer, Kate Moose. So we kept making more seasons, more episodes, expanding out to other mental health topics. We talked to people who weren't comedians, people from all walks of life, experts, listeners. Because what soon became apparent was that depression is not a solo act. People rarely have just depression. It's not a solo, it's part of a band. It's part of an orchestra, really. Anxiety, trauma response, OCD, eating disorders, any number of things might be happening. And we found that people didn't talk about this stuff much. And so we were really filling a much bigger hole than we thought because it is taboo in our society. So people suffer in silence and often die as a result. And they don't talk because mental illness is scary. It's an invisible thing that can alter reality, change behavior, change thinking, and impede function. That's scary. And when you don't talk about this kind of thing, though, you feel alone and you get to thinking no one else is going through this, which is not true. So many people have gone through and are going through anything that you might be experiencing. On one of our first episodes, Maria Bamford said, no matter what you're experiencing, Google it. Other people have dealt with it. Someone probably wrote a book on it. Maybe they're on a book tour. Maybe you could go see them and get your copy of the book autographed. So when we presented stories of Maria's life or Paul F. Tompkins or Andy Richter's or Dick Cavett's, listeners learned that they were not alone, that they were part of a team, which is always wonderful to know that you're part of a team. We made that show for the next few years. We won a Webby Award for Best Comedy Podcast, which surprised the people who make, comedy podcasts. And I wrote a book also called The Hilarious World of Depression. Where is it? Here it is. Hi. And it did well. It got good reviews. But you know what I never did with that book? I never went on a book tour because that book came out in the spring of 2020. And as you'll recall, not a big moment for live events or leaving one's house. It was a great moment for disinfecting your groceries when you brought them home, but not a great time really all around in general, that first COVID season. And right around then, my company laid off a bunch of people, and I was one of those people, and that was the end of the hilarious world of depression. I was sad, and I was grateful to have ever made it at all. I mean, who doesn't dream of doing meaningful work? Who doesn't dream of finding a purpose to their work in this